Kendrick responding to Drake on a track called Euphoria today, 6 minutes and change. And everybody was waiting for Kendrick to respond to Drake. And I knew he would respond when he was ready. And I knew when he responded, it was going to be heat. I knew it. Because Kendrick is an artist on a different level. He's an artist on a different level. And he hates Drake. He hates him. He hates everything he stands for, everything he represents. And look, I mean, fan bases are going to be polarized. I'm probably a little biased against Drake. Not probably. I'm a little biased against Drake. He's not my favorite. I could be accused of being a Drake hater. At that same token, I've heard and listened to all of Drake's music. There's some of it I have liked. But I'm with Kendrick. I like melodic Drake, not tough guy Drake. Like, if you're asking me what's my favorite Drake song, I would say, Hold On, We're Going Home. That's my favorite Drake song. That's the one that I feel like is timeless and authentic in a way. I've got my eyes on you. That's a great song. It's a great song. And if I'm saying what are my favorite Drake albums, it's probably Nothing Was the Same. Maybe Take Care a little bit. Though it kind of feels like a Weekend album in retrospect. But the thing about this Euphoria track is Kendrick said what a lot of us think and how a lot of us feel about Drake. That just something about him that feels fraudulent and phony. And the ghostwriter thing, it's funny. I've seen this defense of Drake of like, he's just saying the things that people have said already. Yeah, those are not good things. And Kendrick flipped the whole, 20 on 1 on Drake because he said it's 1 verse 20 if I got to slap the dudes that are writing for you. And that's the thing about this battle that I think is tough because there's not much to say about Kendrick. He's private. His artistry, his music speaks for itself. And a lot of us have that feeling about it. And there's a lot beneath the surface on this Kendrick diss that I think people are going to get to later. I mean, some of it, he went back to the Like That issue of Drake not having a classic. He said, you don't have a class. My last one's like my first one, a classic. You don't have one. Your core fans will have to stomach that and realize where you get your abs from. Core, stomach, all that. There's wordplay. He also responds to the whole idea that he's splitting up his money. And that's what when Drake said that on Push-Ups, it was always odd to me because we all knew he was on that Young Money deal. And Drake, that's what Kendrick said. You're paying out to this person, that person, that person, that person. But the core of the song is about how Kendrick despises Drake's very essence and thinks he's a phony and fraudulent. And as a result, he doesn't have the integrity to be a good father. That's where he gets to later. But the beginning of the song has a sound loop that, if you play it backwards, is, I think it's the Wizard of Oz, Richard Pryor being exposed as a fraud. That's the crux of it. That's what he's going at. That's the heart of the matter. You've got ghostwriters. You're not comfortable in your own skin. You're not a tough guy. Your music isn't authentic enough to be good enough, to be classic enough, to mess with me. Your artistry can't mess with me as a result. If this is the way you conduct yourself, how can you teach and impart wisdom onto your son? That's basically what he's saying in a lot of this. And it's going to be tough to respond. Because look, I just think Kendrick's energy, he's just better than Drake to me. That's another thing. The Push-Ups joint, I don't know if I've played it again, since I certainly haven't played the TaylorMade thing. I can't even play that because it's not available anymore. And Kendrick alludes to that, making Tupac roll over in his grave and all that. But so that I'm not completely piling on Drake, I want to be fair. I see him frustrated. He's in the warehouse of his workplace. I got Kevin Zwicker back on the show. Kevin has an OVO tattoo.
I do.
It's very authentic that he is going to be defending Drake. I'll give you the floor. Look, hey, look, Kevin, you can't say I'm not. I'm giving you a voice here. I'm letting you take the other side of the argument. Go.
You are, man, but I feel like this whole funeral of Drake that you're trying to have is very premature, man. Push-ups is hot, all right?
What did he say? What did he say on push-ups? He said you wear a small shoe size.
What's a prince to a king? You a son. He's his son.
Okay, but Drake on this song, Kendrick says when he shot the first Drake, basically the gun, he was taught how to aim it better, and then he realized I have to point down. So basically, he's saying I'm above you. I have to shoot down at you because you're beneath me.
Drake said the same thing. He said I have to hike down to have this conversation. I have to come down from the Mount Olympus of rap to come down and have this conversation with you.
But how can you be on the Mount Olympus of rap if you've got other people writing your raps?
That's not true.
It's not. We've heard the reference tracks.
First of all, we don't know the sources of those reference tracks. We don't know enough about the music industry to know what are those from. We hear reference track. I heard reference tracks from Kendrick the other day. Should I sit there and say that he's a bad, he has no pen? 21 Savage said Drake wrote rhymes for him on Her Loss. Same thing with Dr. Dre. Same thing with Wayne.
Well, Dr. Dre doesn't count. You can't see Dr. Dre is a bad example because Dr. Dre. Look, Jay-Z wrote still DRE, right? Jay-Z wrote Snoop's part. Jay-Z wrote Dre's part, but we've never thought of Dr. Dre in that way. And the same thing would go for Kanye, even. You know, and that's where I find it hard with Drake sometimes because I don't really put him in the rapper category as much as like an overall artist category. And I prefer when he's doing Passion Fruit to when he's doing 8 a.m. in Raleigh or whatever.
The point I was trying to make was he has pen because he's wrote for other people. If the guy wasn't a good writer, then why would somebody else ask him to write for them?
Oh, I'm not saying he's not a good writer or a gifted writer. That's, he's put out too much music for that to be the case. I'm saying you can't say you're the best rapper if you got people writing your raps. You just can't.
But the songs that have come out that people like the reference tracks that you're referring to are these very lyrical tracks. It's not like the 8 a.m. in Toronto song or like his best hardest tracks where it's like
he's got Little Yachty writing for him.
Dude, you think Drake needs Yachty to write for him?
I mean, he did write for him. He obviously does he need it? I don't know, but
dude, the same guy who made I Want This for Life. We need him to rap for Drake. Come on, man. You're a smart guy. There's probably a logical explanation.
What can Drake say about Kendrick that's going to stick? Like, I think that's the hardest part of this nut to crack from the other end. If I'm being just like, so it's like if you're having a Jordan LeBron argument, I'm a LeBron guy, but if I'm going at LeBron, I would start with the 2011 finals. That would be like the first salvo, the opening argument. Like, where do you attack Kendrick?
So in my mind, publicly, we don't know a lot about stuff, right? But I'm sure even in your industry, there's stuff you know about different people in the media that I wouldn't know because you're in that industry. So I'm sure that there has to be something that Drake has. The dude was talking too confidently the last 2 weeks. He has to have something up his sleeve to be talking the way that he was talking in his social media antics the last 2 weeks.
But Kendrick is also alluding that, what was the line at the beginning? He says, I make music that electrifies him. You make music that pacifies him. And that's basically, again, it all goes back to that aspect of it. And even the here's the part of it that I'm not as comfortable with, which is the you're not black enough kind of aspect, because I cannot speak on that. It is not my place to speak on that. But the way I interpret that from Kendrick's point of view, not from Rick Ross, but from Kendrick's, I think it fits into the entire theme of I find your existence fraudulent, and that's more so than just a color or a race thing as far as it being a bigger part of that whole equation. But then again, like I said, I'm not qualified to speak on that.
But the thing about it with me is all these insults that we're hearing, and you kind of touched on it earlier, these are things that we've heard before. Like, I'm sure in the beginning of your career, and even now, you'll get somebody tweeting at you or something of a take that you haven't called you a clown, right? Yeah. I'm sure in the beginning of when you started it felt a lot worse than it does now.
Well, no, the one that I get the most, and the Suns fans can't say shit right now, so they're dormant. But it's when I was on SI Now, when it was a studio show, we were talking about Devin Booker once, and there was a lower third that said, "Is Devin Booker even good?" Which I did not make the lower third, so it makes it very memeable because you got like, "Is Devin Booker even good?" My point was wrong because I said I thought. Well, I don't know if my point was 100% wrong, but it was like 90% wrong in the sense of I had said that I thought of him more as a scorer and not a guy that's impacting the game in a bunch of other ways. And I think I compared him to Lou Williams, which is wrong. And he's much better than that. And I apologize, and I got it wrong. And I've told Suns fans I got that wrong. I still don't think Booker is on the level of some of the other superstars in the league. Nonetheless, anything Suns related, the Suns fans always come up and they've got that meme of is Devin Booker even good? So they throw it in my face. But I don't know how much of an argument it is to say this guy has so many things you can diss him about.
But what I'm saying is, the way that I see it now is rap beef has evolved into where it's basically you have to be TMZ. It's not about who has the harder rhymes or the more entendre. It's the dirt that you can reveal that people don't know.
See, but I'm not with that. I'm about rap, and that's what I like. That's what I like about Kendrick's joint is his bar after bar after bar after bar after bar.
No, I'm with you. I agree with you. But just for the general public, that seems to be the consensus that I see out. That we declare this person the winner of this battle when they reveal something that we don't know. So like that's the only reason why I would consider that Pusha T one. Like I feel like the Duppy freestyle song that Drake came out with. And Pusha's song, Drake's songs washes his song. It's just Pusha reveals something we didn't know.
Well, that TikTok that was put together made that Pusha T joint hit even harder for me. But yeah, I mean, look, the you were hiding a child thing was so shocking. I'm with you. Like that one never, like it was like, all right, that's kind of gossipy in my mind. There was other stuff on that track that was ruthless. The stuff about 40, which was a little out of pocket. As far as I'm concerned. But then I thought there was other lines in there that really hit. But ultimately, because Drake didn't respond to that, that's what's given it, I think, the legendary status. And obviously, Kendrick alludes to it on this. What does he say? He's like, I don't like that you brought Pharrell into this beef. You couldn't even push a T while you try and push with me or whatever. He says he's Terrence Thornton. I'm Terrence Crawford. AJ Schreiber says, are these rap battles just a way for these guys to keep each other in the mainstream? Reminds me of Kanye and 50 Cent. Aren't they doing these things just to prop each other up? Well, Kanye crushed 50 Cent back then. People don't realize when they went head-to-head, that was graduation against Curtis. That was the end of 50 Cent. As far as like not being a relevant figure in general, but in the sense of being a huge mainstream recording artist, that was kind of the end of 50 Cent. Too bad the Kanye that made that is no longer around. But it's always been a part, AJ, of rap and the sparring. And I don't think like Takeover and Ether, I don't think those were about keeping each other relevant. And I don't think that's the case here either. I think, look, Drake is very social media active, so he's always going to be relevant in that sense. And I honestly believe Kendrick Lamar hates Drake.
And we on this side hate Kendrick Lamar. No, but this battle, this is a battle because one of my closest friends is a huge Kendrick fan. So we fantasy booked this like wrestling bookers for years. All right. And I feel like this is the battle for rap supremacy. These are the two guys of this generation that people say is the guy who is the best. Drake obviously has the sales and the more mainstream success, and Kendrick has always been donned as the lyrical guy. All right. Like he has the best raps. And I feel like this battle right here is determining who is the guy of this generation. Now, I think Drake is because the numbers and everything is so successful that they're like, he doesn't really have a counterpart that's close in that area. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the thorn in his side has always been, yeah, you're this successful guy, but you're not Kendrick though. Yeah. So I feel like this is.
And Kendrick's also very succceptible. It's not like
No, he's not a bum. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Like this is his thorn in his side. This is his opportunity to put the stamp on guys who are Drake haters, because we know a lot. Robin, you might be in that group.
Yeah.
You might be in it.
But here's what you have to admit, Kevin.
I will.
Kendrick shakes the table.
Yeah.
Like he comes, it ain't not noticeable. Like that's like Godzilla coming through the city. Like every time he does one of these things intentionally, it ain't with a murmur, it's loud.
Yeah. So one thing I will say is Drake drops so much music that like it may not feel special to some because you know within the next month or two you're gonna get something. Kendrick drops so sparingly that it's like when he drops, it's a big deal because he doesn't release music that often. That's one thing I'll say over him. Yeah.
And that's, I would prefer the well cooked meal.